Triple H is one of the most fascinating people in pro wrestling today, in my opinion. The current WWE CCO who gets praised no end when things are going well, and the man who gets absolutely decimated when things aren't going so well. He's the WWE's personification of both its current success stories and the company's downfalls, and even if decisions are being made without his blessing, mainly from the head honchos at TKO, it's Paul Levesque who takes the brunt of fan criticism. Maybe it's rightfully so. You could say Hunter's happy to accept his flaws when WWE knocks it out of the park, and because of this he should be happy to take criticism when things aren't going well. But either way, he does have a very demanding job, and it takes a special kind of person to be able to do what he does, no matter what you may think of the guy. What we can't deny though is the fact that Hunter had enemies within the business itself that didn't take too kindly to how he operated behind the scenes. Maven recently uploaded a video talking about issues he had with Hunter, and fair play for that thumbnail and video title, lad. That's not holding back at all. But Maven certainly isn't the first nor last guy in the business who didn't give Triple H a glowing review. In today's video, we're going to look at many other people who had issues with Triple H, whether that be on a professional or personal level. Many of the quotes in this video are from long before Hunter put on his business suit, and without a doubt, I'm sure many of the guys featured in this video have changed their feelings towards Triple H for one reason or another. So where available, I'll include the year when the quotes were made. This video is not an extensive look at what everyone has ever said about Hunter, by the way. That would take forever. These are just the ones I found quite interesting. I've said it many times before, even when he was viewed as the worst person on the planet, I am a Triple H fan. But even the most hardcore Helmsley fan can't overlook the fact that so many people in the business seem to say the same things over and over again when it comes to the King of Kings. It kinda leads you to believe that there's no smoke without fire. Paul London, who worked in WWE from 2003 to 2008, tells a story about Rob Van Dam confronting Hunter after the game made a joke about RVD in the locker room.
Hunter was always pretty glaringly, obviously jealous of certain individuals. I'm not saying he was jealous of me, but I could tell he was envious of Van Dam. He was extremely envious of Van Dam's success. He was envious of Van Dam's personality. He was envious of the way that everyone gravitated towards Rob because they liked being around Rob. He was very positive. Hunter always kept a thumb on me because he knew that I was kind of more of like a Rob type guy. I was one of Rob's guys. I remember seeing Van Dam get in Hunter's face. Hunter made a smart remark at a meeting about Rob having the munchies or something like that, trying to pop the room. Well, Hunter's kind of like that nerd who throws out a joke expecting the room to start laughing, but he ends up being the only one kind of laughing at his own joke. So he made this munchie comment in a meeting one time and chuckled to himself, expecting everyone else to just erupt and laugh, but nobody did. And Rob, confronted him after and was like, "Hey, are we friends? Are we boys? Can you make jokes like that to me? Are we close? I don't think so." It was great to just see Hunter just cower, just shrink. Because he knew he'd gotten his ass whipped. Just totally whipped. Hunter's obviously moved himself into this position because he knows that his ring work lacks. He knows that if he continues to wrestle, he's just going to expose himself more and more, especially with the new talent that's coming in. So that's why he's putting himself in a position of power more than he already has. I mean, the guy married his way into the company.
While Eric Bischoff didn't dig into anything too scathing about Triple H's backstage politicking or his locker room etiquette, he did say he didn't think Hunter was a good wrestler in WCW, and he called him a utility player when compared to guys like Rock, Austin, and even John Cena. Triple H, he was just starting out. He was good, but there's nobody that's going to be honest about it that can go back and look at Triple H in 1993 and go, oh, he's going to be a big star. He married the boss's daughter. It is what it is, folks. This isn't going to do me any good. I think Paul Levesque, Triple H, he's a student. He really is a student of the game. He is a great performer, but he's never been a Rock. He's never been an Austin. He's never been a Cena. He's been a great utility player at a certain level. He's been around forever, but he's never been a superstar. In 1993, I don't believe anybody that's really being honest can say, yeah, when I saw him in 1993, I knew he was going to be a big star. He just worked hard, he studied, he did the right things, he didn't drink, he didn't do drugs, he just studies professional wrestling. He worked his way up to a point where he was able to break through because he was so consistent. He was so good and so consistent, but he was never great. I'm unsure which podcast or interview this originated from, but if you search YouTube, you'll be able to hear Ryback say the following words. Ryback talks about trying to come back from injury and working in FCW when Triple H approached him, so I assume the conversation between the two happened between 2008 and 2010. I think, I'm not sure. Here, Ryback talks about the moment he stopped being a fan of Triple H, thanks to what Hunter said to him.
John Laurinaitis calls me. I'd not been cleared yet to return back to in-ring action. I just had the third surgery, and I was attempting to come back from the third surgery, from the 2 botched surgeries from that first doctor. Hunter, who was starting to gain more control over developmental this period, was coming into FCW a little bit. He comes up to me. He goes, "Oh, how you doing?" And I go, "I'm feeling good. I finally got the metal taken out of my leg." And he goes, "Eventually we got to pull the plug on you." His exact fucking words, "Eventually we have to pull the plug on you." Growing up, he was one of the few guys that I actually really liked. And like I don't want to say looked up to, but I liked his character.
Sure, of course.
So then this guy, who's now the boss, looks at me, "Oh, eventually we have to pull the plug on you." I was driving 3 hours to live events to go do rehab, busting my ass trying to figure out, calling the office, telling them things aren't right, but falling on deaf ears for a fucking year. So like I'd never felt more let down in my life. And I just sat and stared at him in complete confusion and like, just what the fuck? In all fairness, he probably knew nothing of what I had been through and what I was doing, but in my mind, I knew. It not only hurt me, but it lit a fire under me that I am now playing with the devil with all of this, and that woke me up. Whatever mark was in me at that point left that fucking moment in time.
Lately, MVP's been ripping into Triple H on a pretty regular basis. It's happening so frequently that fans are jokingly comparing MVP to Bret Hart going after Bill Goldberg. Here's 2 separate quotes from 2 separate interviews. I've said it before, I call him a coward and a liar. Let's put it like this, if you really want to, you can go to YouTube and you can look up the interviews of various wrestlers through the years of what their opinion is of the man. Interviews of guys that were his friends, what they had to say about the guy. I can think of more guys that dislike him than I can think of guys that do like him. And people say MVP's salty or bitter. Like, no, I have personal issues with the dude, not stemming from professional stuff, but just the things he does, how he carries himself. I just don't have respect for the guy. The newer generation, they don't know that guy yet. Those that come up underneath him in NXT, they think he's brilliant, and a lot of them should for the hand he's had in their career. But the guys that had to work with him back in the day will tell you a different story, almost overwhelmingly. And so it's not just me saying it. There's guys who are way up more on the totem pole than me that are telling you that this guy's no bueno. And here's the second quote where the topic of Triple H came up once again. MVP talks about wanting to leave WWE in 2024. He believes that Vince McMahon wanted to reform the Hurt Business stable that MVP was involved in, but when Triple H took over, Hunter decided not to bring the group back to TV. I made up my mind that I don't want to be here anymore, and if Triple H is in charge, then I definitely don't want to be here because I don't like Triple H. I don't respect Triple H. I think he's a coward and a liar. There have been many situations where he was dealing with Bobby Lashley, where he didn't have the balls to tell Bobby the truth about creatively what he wanted to do. There are multiple times that I tried to talk to him, and he would always say, "I'll get with you in a little bit." Or the few times that I got a chance to get him in his office alone, he would call somebody to come in. He didn't want to deal with it. I don't respect that. I'm professional. Tell me how you feel. We're doing business. There's lots of people throughout my career that I've worked with that I don't like, but we're making money. We're doing business. Scott Steiner didn't like Triple H at all, and the issue stems from Steiner's WWE return in 2002. Big Papa Pump had a series of matches with Hunter that didn't go down well at all, but it wasn't really the match quality that annoyed Scott. Scott believes that Hunter beat WCW guys on TV out of pure ego, though with Braun Breaker now in WWE, I'm not so sure if Scott would repeat these sentiments today. Same thing went wrong for me that went wrong for everyone else that went to WWE from WCW. Look what he did. Triple H beat everybody. Kevin Nash went in and look what he did. He had a DQ and then he got beat. Sting got treated worse. He had one match with him and he was done. That's the thing when a guy's a mark and he wants to beat everybody, and he was a legitimate p***. I mean, Wikipedia don't lie. I mean, seriously, look what he's done. Nothing. Of course, it does help banging the boss's daughter, so, he took advantage of everything that he could and he beat everyone from WCW. Why? They treated everyone like shit and we're all in the same business. Wrestling's a small knit community, it's a brotherhood, but you're gonna treat us bad because we wrestle for somebody else? I mean, it made no sense, but now it's biting them in the ass. They would kill for half the ratings that they had when we had the Monday Night Wars. Look at them, it's biting them in the ass, and them, they got what they deserved. It's nothing different, like CM Punk said the same thing I said, 9 years later, about Triple H, what he said about the business. Moxley said basically the same thing. That is the worst place ever to work. Every time I worked there, I wanted to quit. Okay, we could go on and on with Bret Hart quotes about Triple H. That time he called Hunter a 4 out of 10's become something of a meme, but I'll keep it brief here. First, here's 2 separate quotes from the 8-1 podcast, recorded in 2021. There's always some guys that no matter what they do with them, you always wonder how they got there. I never thought Triple H ever had an original idea for anything. I always thought he was overrated. The reason people even know him or remember him today is because Daddy-in-Law put him over. From the same interview, Bret talked about Ken Shamrock's poor treatment in the WWF, and he suggests it had something to do with Triple H. Right from the start, I wanted to wrestle Ken. I would have loved to have worked with him. I got Ken in and trained him. Vader and Ken trained in my house. I was the guy that brought him in and kinda got him to do wrestling. He told me he broke his hand in UFC and said, I can't fight for a while. I said, why don't you wrestle? Make some money doing wrestling. You'd be a big star in wrestling. Ken used to be a pro wrestler before he did the UFC stuff. It wasn't that hard to go, okay, I'll go back to the pro wrestling stuff. I said, let your hand mend up and heal and we'll do wrestling stuff. I'd have loved to work with Ken, it just never happened. I don't know why, probably more to do with the office. Quick side note, Bret and Ken did have a match on Raw, but it wasn't a full program. But back to Bret. I remember that Vince was going to fire him, and Vince called me up and basically said, I'm just getting ready to call Ken Shamrock, I'm going to fire him. And I said, why would you fire him? Vince was like, a lot of the guys don't like him in management. And I said, I don't think you should fire him. We really need a guy like Ken Shamrock. We can use a guy like that, he can be a star and we can make money with him. And I changed his mind. He goes, okay, I'll keep him, and they kept him. He did pretty good. That was all in the early going when he first showed up and he did the match where he refereed me and Stone Cold. That was before he got signed, so that was a few weeks before WrestleMania. But I always thought he was someone who could have been a way better pro wrestling star than what they allowed him to be. To be honest, I think Triple H didn't like him, mostly because he was connected to me. But Triple H, I remember, didn't like him, and I remember Triple H was working with him a lot. He was always criticizing him and talking about him. I think that was one of the guys that stabbed him in the back a lot. Finally, here's a quote from a Bret Hart interview recorded by Inside the Ropes. The clip was uploaded in 2025, but I believe the interview happened a year or two prior. I never really rated him. There is not one match that I ever watched of Triple H with anybody that I ever thought was, that's a great match. I never wanted to wrestle him. I look at every wrestler and go, I could do this with that guy and do this with that guy. With Triple H, it was always just a match. Nothing special ever came to mind. I'm not sure where I stand with Triple H, just being honest. I never rated him. Everything he's done, everything he's created, it's all stuff he wrote out for himself. I wish I could have sat back in 1992 and said, well, this is what I'm going to do for the next 10 years. I'm going to win every title and I'm going to be champion 55 times or 500 times. I think Triple H is a phony, like in the sense that he never earned it and he never deserved it. He just married the boss's daughter. He was such a slimeball back in 1997, a guy I had very little respect for. This particular shoot interview from The Ultimate Warrior by Ringside Collectibles has become quite famous, one of those interviews that everyone's seen clips from. Warrior talked about his match against Triple H at WrestleMania 12 and how Hunter conducted himself when trying to set the match up.
And I didn't know Hunter. You know, all I knew was I was coming back as Ultimate Warrior, and the guys that were on top, that Vince was using on top, were the B-team players when Ultimate Warrior was there. Right. I was going to come back and make an impression. And it wasn't about that I had a malicious plan to disparage anything that Hunter Hearst Helmsley had done in his career up to that point, or to say he's not any kind of talent or anything like that. I told him what I wanted to do, that I was going to come and make my entrance, you give me your finish, I'm going to kick out of it, and then I'm going to give you a press slam, we're going to go home. And he said, okay. And then he went and got Jerry Briscoe. Came in the locker room, we went in the shower, and he proceeded to have Jerry Briscoe try to tell me that he had all these ideas. And I listened to Jerry for about 5 seconds, and I looked right at Hunter. And I said, if you ever have anything that you need to discuss with me, you need to come to discuss it with me, face to face, man to man. Right. We're done. And that was it.
Right. Did he ever apologize?
And he didn't. No, and he didn't need to. He didn't need to, per se, to apologize to me. I can understand how he would have took it, but I'm sure today, and in some ways, I could probably take a little credit for what he's done in his career. Because I know if somebody had done that to me, what I would have done, I would have said to myself, we'll see. Right. And look what he's done in the business. If he wants to tell the story a different way, then he's the puny little bastard on the inside that he was back then. He's not the guy that's built a really credible career in the business and seems to love the business. He's still the puny little shithead that he was in 1996, and I'd tell him to his face again.
Warrior uploaded a vlog on his personal YouTube channel back in 2012 where he was talking about Kevin Nash. While ripping into Big Sexy, Warrior also went after Triple H due to the Click association.
Everybody knows, Kevin, that you're a cheater and a thief, afraid to compete on merits alone. The only reason you have a job at WWE is because you got a good friend over there, your good friend Paulie, one of the original members of the Click. And everybody knows, again, everybody from the top talent to the ring crew, to the people that work the concession stand, they know that he's the same kind of vile, contemptible human being that you are, and that he has operated his life and his business in sports entertainment the same way that you have. That he's envious and he's petty and he's done everything within his means, and he's got some pretty powerful fucking means, I will have to admit that. He's done everything within his means to hold other young, promising talent down. Totally just snuff out entirely their chance at having success in the business.
Ken Anderson has his own channel too, and he talked about Triple H quite a few times. He spoke about Hunter burying him backstage to the boys while Ken was in the ring cutting a promo. But here's an interesting quote where Anderson talks about moving from SmackDown to Raw. I felt like Triple H didn't like me for whatever reason. I probably didn't give him a reason to like me. Everything was good until I worked Triple H on a loop of house shows. We didn't have a whole lot of interaction on Raw, and it's funny because on SmackDown, I'm working with Taker, Kane, Batista, Booker and Finlay, all these top guys, right? And never had a problem. Then I went over to Raw and they put me with Hunter on a loop of house shows one weekend, and then the following week it was like I couldn't work, like I didn't know how to wrestle, you know? It was like my abilities were being questioned. Goldberg didn't like Triple H even before Billy Boy made it to the WWE. What Bill refers to here in this audio is a clip from Tough Enough Season 1. Hunter paid the trainees a visit and he got irrationally upset when one of the contestants had a Bill Goldberg poster in their room. Hunter said Bill couldn't work, he was only in it for the stardom and the fame, and he basically called Bill a part-timer who hadn't paid his dues.
I think a lot of that between Hunter and myself, we had an interaction when I was at WCW leading the charge in New York at a press event. I had heard you knew all the behind the scenes, right? So the Clique and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, and they're his buddies, and so I hurt myself, and I know some people that were friends that worked with me were talking to him when he was working in the WWE, and he made a comment while I was at home, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And from that he said I was tanking it or faking it or something, and I wasn't there for the demise of WCW. How could I? So from then on, I wanted to eat that I wanted to rip his face off. So we had a confrontation prior to me signing of the WWE. And then ironically, we were represented by the same agent. And so it made the situation quite uncomfortable once I signed with the WWE. Let's just say that.
I looked at Bombastic Bob's book in a previous video, but these quotes fit in nicely with our video subject today. Holly talks about Triple H's insecurities being the main reason why he defeated so many people in the ring. I want to like the guy, I really do. He's great in the ring, nice to your face and fun to be around, but it's hard to like him when you know about all of his backstage manoeuvring and how he screwed with people's lives. Hunter's buried many a good worker just because he didn't like the guy. He nearly killed Cena right from the get-go. When you think that Cena's been the company's biggest cash cow for the last decade, it shows you how much Hunter knew about that deal. He always buried Jericho, he nearly got him fired. So many guys could have been a lot more than they ended up being. Kane, Booker, RVD, all buried by Hunter. Rob Van Dam could have been huge. CM Punk's one of the top guys now, but he could have been the guy. Even though Hunter never liked him, they had no choice but to go with Punk because he got over. You'll notice that Hunter made sure to go over him though, to make sure everybody knew Punk wasn't on Hunter's level. Where's the sense in that? It just took away Punk's momentum when he was the hottest thing going. Punk could have made so much more money for the business if Hunter had the balls to put him over. It's got to be insecurity. It's strange because he's such a great wrestler, he's got such a great mind for the business, and he's actually a decent guy. But when it comes to company politics, if he doesn't like you, he'll fuck you over no matter how good you are. It's a crying shame. Face to face, he acts like he's your best friend, but as soon as you turn away, out comes the knife. I'm not going to mention names because the people in question still work for the company, but I was told several times by several people that Hunter used to bury me directly to Vince in meetings. Once he was in power, I was going nowhere. I wish he had had the balls to tell me what he really thought of me to my face. As far as I'm concerned, he's a coward for never giving me any indication there was something wrong between us. Bret Hart hit the nail on the head when he said that Hunter tries to keep all the money for his cronies. When they started up D-Generation X again in 2006, Billy, Road Dogg and X-Pac wanted to come back in, but Hunter put the kibosh on that. He wanted to keep it to just him and Shawn so they could split the merchandise royalties 2 ways rather than 5. To add balance here, there's been many wrestlers and people in the business who praised Triple H. Eddie Guerrero praised Hunter's work ethic and said his work ethic alone was enough to give Hunter special treatment. Kurt Angle said that Triple H has the highest wrestling IQ out of everyone he ever worked with. Steve Austin said more than once that he loved working with Hunter. Undertaker said that Hunter changed the atmosphere backstage in WWE by bringing in more trust, whereas Vince McMahon could easily make the locker room stress out. And Kevin Owens said one of Hunter's best strengths from a creative aspect was the fact that he was big on continuity and he applies previous various kayfabe relationships to current storylines, something the old guard didn't do often enough. There seems to be two sides of Triple H for sure, but at the same time, there's also two sides to those offering their thoughts on the game. It seems like a lot of opinions have changed since Triple H's days as an active wrestler, but also a lot of people still hold on to grudges while explaining their reasons via podcasts, interviews, or YouTube videos. It also seems like fan sentiment is largely the same. There's those who like Hunter, there's those who didn't like him initially but see him in a different light nowadays, and there's those that despise him no matter what he does. Let me know where you stand in the comment section, and until next time, thank you very much for watching, and please take care.